So thank you very much. So truly this is a research that began 4 or 5 years ago at the previous SEMRAX. And at that time, since I understood absolutely nothing about reduced MHD model, we had, I don't remember the name of the project, but we have done some numerics to try to understand first things. And now with Rémi, so the point is to understand all these MHD models that were discussed, typically the ones by Calen, by Xavier Garbet, by Guido Huysmans yesterday, and so on, but more from a perspective, a mathematical perspective, than for a physical perspective. Because, and what is the structure of this model? That what we can understand, perhaps, on the well-posedness, perhaps, if it has some interest, or this kind of things. Okay. And so it is really, so it will be devoted on this MHD model and reduced MHD model that are written in this toroidal geometry, which is the one of a tokamak. And this is, okay, here. Yes, introduction. Okay. Okay, so nothing to say. Okay, so this model, so this is the introduction, okay? During the introduction, I will just try to explain what we are interested in. Ah, c'est même pas... Doesn't work at all. Oh, yes. Yes, okay. So this model, typically, is one model of the Jorek. Okay, so we took it from one of your papers. Okay, perhaps this one with Matthias also. Okay, this is just to remember that I try to work on this topic or to read all these papers at that time, starting from the GCP paper where all these Bézier surface and finite element for MHD simulation are described. And also there are very nice models which are explained at the end, so this is where we started. And this model, okay, so what you see in this model, we have a density equation. I will not comment that much on the density equation. You have a temperature equation. I will do not speak about the temperature equation. Then we have in red an equation for the magnetic flux, and which is a scalar. And here you see there is R, which is the curvature, because you have distance. Oh, you have distance. This is the... So my notation are this one. Okay? Okay? R, distance to the axis, theta, which belongs to 0 to pi, and Z, which is the vertical variable. So I apologize, but I use theta for the poloidal, the toroidal angle. So it's not exactly the same notation as in plasma physics. Okay. Okay. So nevertheless, so this is the magnetic potential, and it satisfies that equation, which is a complicated one. And actually, it's true. Clearly, it has been a simplification of the MHD equation for the magnetic field, and I will explain. So we will focus also on the blue equation. And what is this blue equation? V is the velocity of the fluid, and you take the curl. Okay, assume that rho is constant somehow. So what is it? Is it the curl? So the curl commutes with the dt. So this is the curl of V, and then you take the scalar product against E theta, which is just the toroidal unit vector. Okay, so this is the vorticity. So it is an equation for a scalar, which is the vorticity. Yes, which is written here. Okay, so this blue equation corresponds somehow to this blue scalar unknown, which is the vorticity of the field. Of course, the vorticity on all these things is related to the velocity potential, but I will speak on this later on. And once you have a knowledge of, for example, omega, phi, and psi, then you can reconstruct B like that. So concerning B, you assume that B is the sum of a given here, of a given term, which is the main toroidal field, plus this one, which is perhaps a perturbation, but which is responsible to the fact that the B will have this helical structure at the end. And concerning V, you have here parallel velocity, but I will not comment that parallel velocity, except that it is associated to that equation. Okay, to simplify, I will not comment on it. But here you have the reconstruction. Where is it? It doesn't work at all. Of the poloidal velocity. Okay, so these two equations couple. These two equations couple these unknowns. Okay, and this guy is just the Laplacian of it. Okay, you will see. But there's something interesting. Here we will discuss reduce MHD, and for example, in the Callan presentation, he speaks about extended MHD. So in some cases you want to extend to put more, and in other cases you want to reduce to put less. So it is funny. Ouais? Merci. Ouais? Yes, much better. Thank you. Okay, and these are simulations that were provided to me by Emmanuel Frank and Eric Zunricker at IPP. Ouais? With the last equation, the black one. But I will discard it. I will not comment on it. Okay? So this guy, you compute with it because it is the projection, the scalar product of V somehow on B, but this is the main part of B, so somehow it is an equation for V parallel. Okay. I will speak mainly of the red and blue equations. So okay, so what people do with that, or what I understand people do with that, they use such models because they are able to define equilibrium stationary satisfactory initial data, this one. So it is a plot of something in the poloidal plane. They had some perturbation. They do the simulation, and the perturbation grows, perhaps here more in the linear regime. And after that, something happens. The physics begin to pop up, and probably this is an Helm calculation. Okay, so these models, what I understand, are used to compute growth rate of linear of instabilities, both in linear and non-linear regime. And typically, this is a plot of these modes. And what is it? So you can, in the toroidal direction, you can decompose the perturbation in a Fourier mode, and you could plot the energy per Fourier mode. And what you see that almost nothing happens here. Then you have a phase where you have a linear growth. Actually, it is exponential growth, but here the growth of the perturbation in the linear regime. Then you have nonlinear saturation and so on. So I will speak about this part of the curve. Okay. So the mathematical questions which are addressed in these talks. Or can we understand the structure of these reduced MHD models? Can we, once we have understood the structure, design a comparison principle for the linear growth rate of perturbation for such models? And also, can we design perhaps new model or play with the model to see what we can do? So the first part, reduction. What does it mean to reduce? So actually, it's not physics, okay? So it is mathematical game here. So I start with a model, and I assume this model is a good one. This is an assumption, an axiom. Of course, from the physical point of view, it's just wrong, but doesn't matter. Okay, so this is a system where you have the density equation, magnetic field. So it is a resistive MHD equation. Here you have the nonlinear part, for those you know. This is the hyperbolic part, first order in derivation. Here you have in magenta resistivity and viscosity of the plasma, and these guys are very small parameters. And here you have forcing term. Why do I add forcing term? Because with a forcing term, it's very easy to see that stationary solution of this model, dt equals 0 and u equals 0, are such that the curl of B is the forcing term, and then you can solve the you say that this thing, the forces are zero, which you have written that, and this is where the Grachef-Ranoff equation is hidden, and so on. So with this, you can study and define plenty of interesting stationary solutions. And the mathematical structure of the model is clearly, in blue, the hyperbolic nonlinear part, in magenta, the parabolic second order but linear part, and in red, the source term. Okay? But now I want to reduce. Okay, so I forgot to say that here is the pressure, but the pressure will play almost no role. And okay, anyway. Yes? This one, yes? Yes, yeah. No. It's just the fluid, the standard equation for the inertial momentum in ideal MHD, enfin in MHD or in a fluid equation. You have that. In astrophysics, if you have a non-viscous MHD, you have that equation. No. Yes. No, yeah, okay. Here I mean that if I want to study stationary solutions, stationary means dt equals 0 and u equals 0, then just that remains, the blue part, from that equation, and just that part remains. This one. But u is 0, so if u is 0 and dt is 0, it plays no role. Okay, but it was a good question, okay? So let's continue. So, okay, and okay, but now I want to discuss reduction in the language of MHD. Okay, so if I discuss reduction with the in the language of MHD, people say, oh, but the magnetic field I am interested in is the addition. This is in slab geometry, and the curvature is after. In slab geometry is the sum of constant forcing magnetic field with a correction, say, which is transverse, okay, which you can write. So the sum of these two guys are this. Here F naught is given. Given by the coils. It is the coils of the tokamak somehow. And here there is some correction. More or less, I know it is not, absolutely not, which is, okay, but more or less, if I assume incompressibility, for the mathematical purposes, it's a good, okay, we can discuss with respect to physics. But if we add incompressibility, we can use the fact that U is also, actually, this guy is a curl, okay? And it is the curl of phi EY, okay? So, and you see it like here. So this is a divergence of U is 0, very close. And here is the trick, the trick. Here where I translate this geometrical structure in mathematical structure. In geometrical structure, lines are helix, okay? Helical structure of the magnetic field. But here I say, oh, I am interested in a magnetic field and a velocity field, which are actually the sum of a constant term plus something where psi and phi are unknown. So this guy actually, K is just a linear space of function. But this linear space, these are functions which have that structure. Okay? So if you change psi and phi, but you have another function which is in the same space. So my notations are K is a vectorial space, and K naught is the space because it is more linear, a fine space. Depends on your note. Huh? And Eric, you see, here I changed the notation, but it's just for you. Okay. Okay. Anyway. Okay. So, but mathematically, of course, a linear space is a very simple space. So mathematically. Okay. Here it is complicated. I mean, the geometry is complicated here, but it's simple here. Okay? So let's continue. So now we use that information, and possibility is to do weak formulation. So once again, if the divergence of U is 0, incompressibility, it's possible to simplify with rho equal to 1 everywhere. So I simplify here. And what it means that you just write the equations, and you take the scalar product against any test function in the space. But of course, in the vectorial part of the space. So U hat is a test function. Okay, and psi hat is the scalar test function that I need to reconcile this guy. The same for B. And the unknowns are these ones. Okay? So it means that U hat, B hat is in K, and UB is in K naught, because I have to move due to the forcing term. Okay? And, but if you do that, as usual, you can do a lot of boring integration by part exercise and so on. So what do you see? So actually, okay, I forgot, okay, this guy is also a curl. Okay, so also this thing is also the curl of phi hat EY. So you can integrate by part the curl, but if you integrate by part the curl, you will compute the curl of U, and then you will get the scalar product against EY. So you will compute the vorticity. And the same for B. But for B, the algebra is a little more tricky. I don't want to comment too much, but okay, here in weak formulation, we do weak formulation everywhere. So the thing is that this B hat is also divergence free. So actually it is a curl, this guy is also a curl, so you have a curl operator everywhere here, because you have a curl there, a curl everywhere here, so you have curl-curl. But when you have curl-curl operator on something which is divergence free, it is Laplacian. And then you have the more usual manipulation. So you do that, and you vary the test function, which are arbitrary, and at the end you get that. Okay? First equation is the equation on the magnetic potential, and here you have the Poisson bracket, which is just the trace of the scalar product at the top. Okay? And for the vorticity, you have the same, and here what is this guy? This is the scalar, the Poisson bracket. But okay, now equations are written in 2D, very important. Initially it was in 3D, now it is in 2D. Okay, so it is very much simplified. And what? And this is the what all that came from B cross B or the Laplace form, the Laplace force. Curl B, vectorial B is here because it is quadratic in psi, so it is quadratic in B. Okay, so the magnetic force is there. Okay, anyway, it's known since a long time, such thing. Okay, but now the question is it possible to generalize this mathematical approach with set K to what is interesting in tokamaks? So yes, and but the main ingredient, of course, is the geometry, of course. But if you, so let me write some typical potentials of ansatz or representation, which are used. And the geometry is that one, and theta is my yes, theta is my angle. Okay, so these are variables. And very often people start with such a representation. B is the sum of this constant term, which is divergence free. You can check that theta is a harmonic potential. Laplacian of theta is 0, so it is divergence free. And then you add the curl of something, and psi is the unknown potential, and it will function most of the time of only on the R and Z variable. Anyway, so you have that, but and of course you can check that B is divergence free. Also, the scalar product of B against theta is the given term, and U is poloidal. Okay, but the interesting information I think is the fact that B and U are once again in a linear space. Okay? So it means that the complex geometrical structure of the tokamaks at the level of functions, it's still linear. So this is the good, the interesting information from the mathematical perspective. Okay? And all the geometry is in these coefficients, but I don't care. It's just, you just compute them, but it doesn't matter. Okay. So that's what somehow very naive introduction, no, extremely naive, to MHD to reduction in the language of MHD. But now I want to discuss reduction in the language of hyperbolic conservation laws, because I think this is something extremely interesting, is to have an interpretation of all these Fried equations and so on, I mean for MHD, perhaps at the same level of mathematical expertise or whatever that people are doing in or the field of fluid mechanics or whatever. Okay. And also we've seen that okay, anyway. So now it seems to be different, but it will exactly the same in 2 slides. Let me focus on that system of conservation laws. It is the hyperbolic part, okay? And in the theory of hyperbolic conservation laws, people know that a very important discussion is the closure relation, which is named entropy in the theory, but which can be the energy. It depends. It's just you have a closure relation. Most of the time it is energy for the physics. For MHD it is the physics. It is the energy. Okay? And it is known that it is very important to know that there is if there is one closure relation, you have access to the structure of the math of such things. If you know that, and the way I like to manipulate that is to remember this guy is a vector and it is a system. So this guy represents the vector. It is the vector of all unknowns, and this one is a scalar because this is the closure relation. But the fact that you have such a closure with the fact that S is a convex functional, the energy is convex, the entropy is convex, and so on and so on and so forth, the mathematical entropy. So you can define the joint variable. I really like to manipulate the joint variable. So the joint variable is a vector. The size of V is the size of U. And actually, it's known since Godunov, okay? If you manipulate, so this is the Godunov trick, this is Godunov who introduced that. The fact that you can manipulate the Legendre transform of the closure functional, okay? Then you can, if you know V, you can compute the Legendre transform. This is the Legendre transform of the entropy, and the gradient of this guy with respect to V is just U. So it is on two. Okay? And if ever S is just quadratic functional, then V is equal to U. So most of the time it is almost immediate. Okay? So if I know U, I know V, and if I know V, I know U. So it is interesting because now instead of trying to understand the equation with the U variable, I can try to understand the equation with the V variable because I know the transformation at any time. And a possibility, but reduction by people like Chen, Livermore, Yu, there are some famous papers in the mathematical community. People who are interested in the mathematical analysis of equations that come from the physics. Boyar, Ruggieri at the same time, Chen, Livermore, and many more. And is the fact that you can reduce the equation. When you have a system of size n, you can reduce the equation by having a system of size p less than n. But there is a good way to do that, and this is the important information. The good way to do that, you say, okay, U is in Rn, vector of size n. Assume I decide of a set K, which is a vectorial space of smaller dimension with a certain number of basis function. Then I could, which are here constant in time and space. It will come later. Then I could just take the scalar product of the original equation. It gives me just P equation now. And I can just decide that V, the joint variable, is in K. Which is like that. I can write it like that. Okay? Which means that this guy now, it can be decomposed like that, and this Lagrange multiplier somehow are now the P unknowns. So you have P equation and you have P unknowns. So that's a closed system, at least in this. But more, you know that by construction, there are theorems about that. The model is, okay, conservative, it's clear, but also is hyperbolic. So it means it's well posed concerning the hyperbolic structure, the waves. You can still define the waves and all these things like that. And there are many theorems that are able to measure the difference, but I will not go in that direction. Okay? And here I would like just to make an exercise here, very small. And actually, this structure, it is exactly the same structure that you have. Or at least you can write the Boltzmann-Euler. Let us assume that I write here the Boltzmann equation. Boltzmann equation is a transport equation with some collision term. But you can use that structure to do things. Here, it is known that for Boltzmann equation, this is the entropy. This is the physical entropy. Let me show that it fits in this algebra. Okay? And I can compute J, which is the derivative, which is S prime of F. So we all know, this is log F minus 1. Okay? But look, most of the time we are interested in Maxwellian. So what is a Maxwellian? A Maxwellian is F is a certain density exponential of, then we something like that. Okay? Where we have three parameters, the density, the temperature, and the velocity. But you see, this saying that F is a Maxwellian is equivalent to say that J belongs, because you take the log, and there is just a constant, to the span of 1 V and V square. So in this case, K, this is K. So all these problems fit they all fit in the same algebra. And what is nice is that you have that algebra, say, for transport equation, for hyperbolic equation, but perhaps now for MHD equation. Then this is what we do now. Okay? And now I put everything in the same bag, and I try to discuss reduction using that language, but for MHD problem, or for abstract MHD problem. Okay? So now I just say, okay, so let me just define, Yeah, no. The entropy is the entropy S. Okay, there are many other properties, which one is the entropy S is also, I mean, the closure relation for the equation at the top is also a closure relation for the reduce. I will show it. Okay, so I will show it. So now let's address this more general setting of the problem. K is now a vectorial subspace of infinite dimension of all function in the domain. Function, a C1 function, say, okay. But I need, because my unknown, I have plenty of equation, n. And this is vectorial subspace. And this is a this is a given part, given function, say, okay. And with Remy, so we propose to write, to look at this structure. We take the scalar product of the original system, just the hyperbolic part for the moment. Okay, next diffusive part will come in a moment, against all test function in the same thing. But I mean, it looks like the same, but the set of functions, there are many more functions now. Okay, because this is the dimension of this guy is infinite. And of course, V is still in K naught. Okay, and we propose to say that the model is hyperbolic compatible, and the remaining part of the talk is just to show you that this structure is very convenient to describe production of MHD models. Okay. Okay, so now I will have integrals everywhere, because these are very general functions. So what can we say? There are two properties. First property, exactly the question you addressed, you asked. If ever I have a closure equation for my original system with, okay, now I have a forcing term of, okay, anyway, so it's very simple algebra, okay? I can write that balance equation. This is the new closure relation. Okay, so this is convex and this is linear. So this is still a convex, strictly convex functional. So that's okay. This is good closure relation for that. And here you get the gradient of V naught, but V naught is given. It's not a dangerous thing. Against f of u, Okay, this is the contraction, but there's no derivative on F, so this is good. For people who know, you can do Grunwald, for example, now with such a structure. Okay? And the proof is immediate. And why? Because when you compute the derivative of this guy, you have the derivative of S. S is dtu scalar V. And here you have the derivative of this guy, which is dtu V naught. But V minus V naught is in K. Okay, and you have the same for the fluxes I do not describe. Huh? V and V naught is in K. So look. Yes, what? Okay, so you have that. Okay, the derivative. Okay, excuse me. What I do? Okay, no, excuse me. So I take V. No, I take Z equal that. So okay, excuse me. I do it the opposite time. So Z is any test function. Okay, so I can take Z is equal to V minus V naught. So this guy is DTS. This guy is dt of this guy. Okay, so that's good. This one is dt is exactly that. And this one, the second part is the divergence of the entropy flux, so it can be eliminated with integration by part. And the last part, this one, I integrate by part one more time, and it gives you that. That's it. And everything is all of the terms that come from the boundary condition are put away. So okay, that's it. So it is answer to your question. Okay, and there is another nice property, which is the following, which is more because in hyperbolic theory, the Cher and Livermore paper, you have many properties that are proved, and one is the fact that if you have a system of size n, hyperbolic system, okay, there are n wave. Comment on appelle ça? Wave velocity. Okay, you have the wave velocities, and MHD you have also wave velocities. And if you reduce, the velocity of the reduced model or less in absolute value than the velocity of the original model. This is very important structure thing. And so the question could be, what can we say for a more general model, which admits that structure, the hyperbolic part? Now I had an abstract diffusive part, so I am closer to the original MHD model. Huh? This is where I will put the viscosity and resistivity of the plasma. And here, once again, I use a forcing term or reference state, because the forcing term is for kind of a reference state. I call it U naught. The forcing is U naught. So you see that if U equal U naught is a stationary equation of that system. U equal U naught is a stationary equation. So okay, so this is what we propose to do for MHD model. Okay, huh? It can be the bootstrap current can be put there and whatever. Okay, but for this, you can do a very simple mathematical trick that will explain you that if you define correctly what is lambda, which is the maximal growth rate of perturbation in the linear regime, then if you decide of a U naught, and if you look at a reduced system, we set K1, and a reduced system, we set K2 larger than K1, so K1 is embedded in K2, then I will show you the proof. It's very simple. Lambda for K1, the maximal growth rate of linear perturbation, is smaller than lambda for K2. And also the fact that actually if you do not reduce, here you will get the maximal growth rate of the original system. So it is a comparison principle, but in a hyperbolic theory, such comparison principles are well known. So here we just translate in the framework of what can be convenient for MHD. So the proof is that simple. So I just want to show you the structure of the proof. Is that the fact but it's not since Godunov actually. So you can linearize the equation around the stationary state. So you linearize everything, and the good thing is that since you have that potential representation of everything, this matrix or this tensor and this matrix, which is also a tensor, they are all symmetric, and this is where you really you have the gain of using that theory. And then, of course, once you linearize the equation where everything is linear, and here you can take z equal v1 because it is admissible, and you will get, of course, quadratic. The variation of the quadratic energy for V1 with that matrix inside. And the result is this one. So you get that the variation of that quadratic energy for the linear perturbation, and A naught is given, it's depend on the reference state. You do integration by part. I don't want to, so it comes from the viscous part, it is negative, of a non-positive, say. And this one is a symmetric matrix now. And you can use the Rayleigh-Ritz analysis. So you just compute the ratio of this divided by that, and let me decide that this is lambda of k. Lambda of k is the maximal value of that divided by that. And it is well defined. You can check. Especially if you have a positive viscosity. You can check. Just provided, of course, the reference state is a smooth or a given gentle state. And you see immediately that, for example, if the reference state is constant, then of course this guy is 0 and lambda is negative, which is the fact that everything is stable. Actually, it is the usual hyperbolic criterion. No? Okay? But in any cases, once lambda has been defined like that, by the Grunwald lemma, you will have that. I mean, the variation, you can integrate, okay? So you divide by this and you re-multiply by it. So the ratio is a Rayleigh coefficient. So you have that estimate, so you have that. So it is exactly what I claimed. The maximal Groth weight of the perturbation in the linear regime is bounded by that. But now, of course, lambda is defined with this Ritz quotient, and so of course if k1, since you take the maximum over all test function in the yes, this is k, okay, this is k, okay. If k is larger, okay, if you enlarge k, of course you will get a higher lambda, and that's it. So this is the proof. So it is very simple, okay. But actually, 1 month ago I was in Munich at IPP, and I look at a little at the book of Schnack on ideal MHD, okay. And it's clear that there are some comparisons that must be done between that and what is done in Schnack. But usually people in ideal MHD, they do this kind of analysis with a completely different method, which is more physically oriented. And in Schnack, it is written at some places that it is not possible to do that algebra. It is possible to do the algebra only for ideal MHD. But here you see it is possible to use viscous term. So that's, and functions, and general function, and reduction. And in Schnack, it's not for reduced system, it's for general system, for ideal MHD. So now it is, you can see it as a generalization of some tools. Some of them are known in plasma physics, in general setting. Okay? So this is the abstract part of the presentation. And now I would like to use that formalism to reduce some models. Okay, I want to do the exercise, what I will get at the end. Okay? So once again, I start with that model. Okay? And I will, now the closure, as I said, is the usual energy. Okay? So I will consider the toroidal case. I will define K and the K naught with it with increasing geometrical structure or increasing structure. Somehow, if I decide to use a certain set K, perhaps it seems to me that I decide to look at the dynamics of this model, but filtering out everything which is not in K. So perhaps people coming from the physics can tell me, oh, this is a good set K. If you give me a set K that is okay for you, I can just write the equations, okay, with that method at least, okay, and make all the calculation for the weak formulation. But in certain cases, the weak formulations, okay, you can write also the strong formulation of the equation. So the strong formulation are better for the interpretation. So okay, I will write the strong formulation, and you will see that they have all the structure of Navier-Stokes equation, and perhaps additional comments. Okay. So this is the, as we said many times, this is the structure of a tokamak. Enfin, the mathematical structure of an idealized tokamak. Okay. And this is, okay. These are, I've seen that, I've shown that before, but it's just to remind you that we will use perhaps more that kind of on that. It is a starting point. Oh, okay. This is one additional comment. It seems to me that this is important, but okay. I justified the fact that I want to reduce U, saying that perhaps the plasma is almost incompressible. So U will be chosen like as the curl of something, so that divergence of U is 0. But actually, so it leads you, since the grad of theta is 1 over R. Oh, no, this is not grad E theta, this is E theta. There is a mistake. This is E theta, okay? But in Jorek and so on, you see here you have 1 over R, but in Jorek, in the first line, it was multiplied by R. So it's not exactly the same representations. There are some reasons for that. It can be changed because the set K is arbitrary. Okay? But I prefer to continue with that. Okay? But okay, this is a difference. And this one, we wrote that model with Rémi 3 years ago, not using that method, but nevertheless, let me give you the results. So we can also decide, we can also say the following thing. Let us decide that the density in the plasma, in the poloidal cut, is given, and it can be, for example, constant, equal to 1, equal to 1 divided by R square. I will call it the Brigoglio model, just referring to what is written at the end of the paper by Huysmans and Czarny. But we can take other R naught. So I decide that R naught, the initial density of the plasma, is also something given. I do want to see things for this kind of thing. And I can decide to change a little the representation formula for the velocity, adding the R naught here. But look, if I have R naught U here, it means that, okay, if I have RU is equal to the curl of something, it means that the divergence of rho U is equal to 0. But since dt of rho is the divergence of rho U up to the sign, it means that dt of rho is 0. So it means that rho doesn't change. So it means that if I decide of a rho naught at time t equals 0, I can use it during all the computation. Okay, and so it is very convenient to decide of an initial density like that and put it in the equation and to see what's going on. So we wrote the weak formulation and we wrote the strong formulation which are with it. So you get an equation for psi where you have weights which are function of rho and R. You have resistivity. This is the Grad-Shafranov Laplacian operator. And you have forcing term. And here it is equation for omega, and you have plenty of terms. You have new terms. But the nice thing is that with all this structure, you are sure that you have a closure relation. I will show it later. And no, because you have two ways to have incompressibility. Either you say that dt is 0, or you say that dt of rho is 0 and the gradient of rho is 0. So in the first model, you have both. In the second model, you already do not have it, and the third one, not okay. So it means that here it is incompressibility in the sense that rho does not change in time. Okay, but you can write the closure relation, and in this case, okay, yes, the forcing term is 0 here for simplicity, but you get that, which is the usual energy relation. So the nice thing is that all the complicated, coefficients, we know in advance that they are not dangerous for the closure relation. So that's very good. Okay, so you do the algebra and you get that. Okay. So okay, and then you can do the math and show that there exists a solution in the sense of the Navier-Stokes theory. I don't want to comment too much. And we've done some numerics also with that, especially with this variable density. So I do not say that this is correct from the physics, but at least we were able to do the numerics. So we have discretized the model with the variable density, and it was okay. So we took that from a physical paper from Fujita, and this is variable density. Okay, anyway, I don't want to comment too much, but it was possible to do some new numerics. And okay, so let me now describe two new models, and after that I will conclude.
It seems to me that the two more interesting models that we were able to wrote with Remy, with that method, are these two ones. First, I will write a model with a non-constant in space, but constant in time forcing term, which means that somehow the coils are designed in such a way that they force a toroidal field, but the toroidal field is varying in space. This is why you have a F, which is now no more 0. And you have still the poloidal correction. And for simplicity, rho is equal to 1 here, but you can put it back if you want, but for simplicity is 1. And the velocity is that one. So the velocity is okay, perhaps there is a mistake. Okay, no, there's no R. There's no R. Okay, doesn't matter. Yeah, it's like the other one. There's no R. Okay, anyway. So at the end, what you get an equation of and also there is it's horrible. So rho is equal to 1, so you can discard rho everywhere, and small r is equal to capital R. Okay. Anyway, so get an equation for the magnetic potential. You get an equation for the vorticity, but you have a new term. And what is this new term? This new term comes from the fact that this guy is non-constant in space. If this guy were constant in space, then the Poisson bracket, which involves the derivative of f, would be 0. But with a non-constant f, then you have this new term. And so it's even true with it's even true with non-constant density. Okay, anyway, doesn't matter. And you have to do everything. But what is the interest of the model? It reminds me that it was a question that was asked to me by Jacques Bloom. And it's the fact that actually, if you use that, you can set f so that it satisfies the Grad-Shafranov equation. I mean the Grad-Shafranov equation in the physical one, no to idealize one. Okay. In that way, so you can design f, design that psi bar, so that it will give you the initial state, which will be a stationary state for my MHD equation, and so it's closer to the physics and more adapted to what people do. So you can initialize that model with a solution of the Grad-Shafranov equation, a rigorous solution of the Grad-Shafranov equation. So that's nice. And this model has this energy closure and all these abstract principles. And this one is perhaps the most challenging one. But it seems to me, because all the previous models were very simple were models that were only in written in a 2D poloidal cut. So the potentials were only function of R and Z. But now I had R, Z, and theta. And why I do that? I do that because this is people look at with all these codes. They use a multidimensional perturbation, and this is it seems to be, when I discuss with people, that it's quite challenging to understand the stability or the numerics of all these models if you have dependence of the potentials also with respect to the theta variable. Okay, so let's decide that. So you see it define the set k. The set k. Okay, now f is constant. Okay, already still. And this is still a vectorial space. There's no problem of that. So you write down the weak formulation, you do all the algebra, and at the end of the day, what you get? You get that dt of psi is equal to the sum of the transport terms with the weights, the Grad-Shafranov. Here we split a little between the perpendicular and the parallel part, okay, to play a little with the parameters, but okay, anyway. We have not done any numerics with it, so we can do whatever you want. Right? For the moment. But here the interesting part is that we have derivative with respect to theta of the potential, and this is psi and this is phi. So this is linear actually. And you have another term here in the potential vorticity equation, which is kind of the dual term of this one. And this is another weighted Laplacian operator. I don't want to discuss. And Q is also linear. With respect to d theta. So at least, so all these terms, all these three terms are linear and function of d theta of the potentials. Okay, so you can write that model, and you have the closure relation. What? No, excuse me. In terms of different, okay, okay. So this is you have a Poisson bracket. This is a second order differential operator, second order differential operator, second, first, and Q actually Q is like first order. Then here it is second order, fourth order. The dangerous part is fourth order because it is a Poisson bracket of something with a second order derivative. So it is fourth order, second order, and third order. You're right, third order because this is a Laplacian of some d theta thing. Okay, but you have already fourth order. Okay, but anyway, the interesting thing is that for this model with all these nasty coefficients, you have immediately the closure relation. So you get that the energy decreases and so on. And you can prove, for people who are interested by the mathematics, you can also prove that there exists at least a weak solution in Sobolev spaces and so on. And yes? Yes. Yes, because the point is that the point, yes, absolutely. The point is that the test functions are also some curl of something. So you have extra derivative. Actually, u is the curl of something, the test function is the curl of something, and you put it in an equation with two derivatives. So you have four derivatives, and this is the reason. So this is why this is complicated. But with that structure, it was more simple. Okay, so you get that. And actually, it is possible to do something. But okay, the previous model was a theoretical model. Okay, but at the level of principle, we have not done that. We have not written the model, but it is immediately the same. Okay. In reality, this is not what people do. In reality, they do something like that. Any potential will be expanded along a certain number of Fourier modes. And of course, it is necessary to bound the number of Fourier modes. It's clear. Okay, and this is really the way it is implemented. People use Fourier, many Fourier modes, and then after that they assemble the matrix and so on. So, okay, the good thing is that, of course, you see that the models are, I mean, they are, okay, you have many derivatives, but they are quadratic. I mean, the nonlinearity is at most quadratic. This is why you can put that in weak formulation. There's no way, no problem. You can assemble the matrix. And what is interesting in looking at that is that you immediately have the. Assume I wrote a model with such an expansion, which gives me a certain set K. So K will depend on capital N, the number of Fourier modes. So I can define the maximal growth rate of eigenmodes, of perturbation, with the abstract formula as before. Okay, for a certain set K that depends on N, I will get lambda that will now, of course, depend on N. But then I can enlarge the set K, and I will have the fact that it is immediate, that with larger N, I will get eventually a larger lambda N, N plus 1, and so on. So this is how it explains how the dynamics is reduced or can be enlarged or whatever. So it is kind of a theoretical justification of all this. Okay? Okay, so it's time to conclude. That's okay for you? Yeah, perfectly in time. Okay, so what I understand of the physical basis of MHD models. Okay, bon, of course, first thing, of course, this is good, but because it works. Okay, so this is there's nothing to say against that. Okay, it really describes seems to be the dynamics of MHD in tokamaks up to certain hypotheses or. Anyway, but it seems to be extremely appealing. And by filtering out, so when you look at books, textbooks or papers, there is always something written like, oh, a reduced model filters out something that I don't want to care with. But with this definition of lambda, you really see what is filtered. Okay, at least you have a mathematical definition. Okay, you can put away some perturbation, linear perturbation that you don't want. It is possible with the weak formulation to have a systematic derivation of such models. The good thing is that even if there are some algebra, okay, the geometry of the torus is taken into account by construction. The main mathematical reasons, I mean, it seems to me, okay, that I try to put forward are the fact that there is a comparison principle for this growth rate of instability, and it's inherited from the hyperbolic theory. It's just a translation. And you have well-posedness. Why? Because because you have this closure relation that gives you this energy functionals and closure, and so it is a priori estimate, and after that you can begin the math. But of course, perhaps it is also very challenging to think of using these tools to understand perhaps okay, it's something misses here there. Okay, I mean to have for the preconditioning of reduced MHD. I mean the one which is really used by real people. I mean, okay. And also discussing a lot with Boniface. It's clear that also he likes very much weak formulation for the assemble of the matrices and so on. So okay, and this is in everything is in this preprint. Okay, thank you very much.
So here you reduce from an infinite dimensional system to another infinite dimensional system, and would the theory work the same if doing a Galerkin reduction to a finite dimensional system, like in the finite element method? Is this exactly what you're meaning with the last sentence?
Which one? This one? Or?
Yes.
No, not necessarily. Look, perhaps this one, perhaps. Okay, there are two answers. First answer, it's clear that if I use, yes, I was not thinking about. If I use now Galerkin subspace, it's still more reduction. What does it mean? It means that such inequality is still true. It means that I have an abstract definition of lambda n, and I can define lambda n h. And lambda n h will be smaller than lambda n. But it is a theoretical prediction. But that's nice anyway. This is because you have all this weak variational formulation, so it's like okay. But I was thinking of something else. But okay, this is good point. Huh? Okay, this is good point. Yes, perhaps here. Here, okay. Here, this is the linearization of the equation using the v variable. And the good point is that if you do that, thanks to this possibility of writing the equation with Legendre transform of the S star and F star, okay, doesn't matter. Then if you linearize the equation around a certain given profile, then you have symmetric matrices. And it's well known that symmetric matrices are very good approach for conditioning of systems, linear systems. So it just shows that using that way of linearizing the equation, you will have systematically symmetric and symmetric positive, because this one is positive, but okay, this one everybody already has it, but this is for the flux, and this is the dangerous part, perhaps. You will have symmetric matrices, so that's very good for doing the linear algebra. I cheated a little. Okay, I have to say that I cheated a little here, because it is known that in MHD you have this divergence of B constraint. So actually all this chain Livermore-Liu must be adapted a little when you use it for magnetic equation, and it is known as Godunov. But on a point, because it spoils the symmetric structure on one point, but at the same time you had one more constraint, and if you do the algebra clever, you get everything correct at the end, but you have to use 2 or 3 times the fact that B is divergence free to do additional. So I've checked that 1 month ago, so that's okay. But I was no. So I mean, at the level of theory, all these should be somehow. I mean, for MHD, okay, it could be to write down all the potentials and to see. But I've done that, so I know them now. Okay.
Maybe if you allow me, I have another short question. Is it strict? In your conclusion, you said that your framework gives you some. You keep your a priori estimate, but it's not so straightforward for me that when you have you have a kind of reduced entropy or reduced energy on your reduced model.
Okay, excuse me.
And you preserve the structure, the convexity or the positivity without any problem.
Yes, but I would say okay. So the question is the following. If I understand, I have a model at the top. The model at the top say for example this one. And for this one, you have a closure relation here for the energy. Then I reduce. Do I have the same a closure relation for the same for another for another thing or for the same thing? And it is the same thing. And let me show you an example. So here, look. I will just show the theory says it is the same, but let me show an example. It is much better. Okay, the energy is the sum of the internal energy, but here in the calculation I will discard it. Rho set it to 1, like in many. So you see that the total energy is just U square plus B square. But look, let's have a look at this one. What is this? This is B square plus U square. This is the same. And even in that complicated case where you have a toroidal dependency of all the variables, and so you have the closure relation for exactly the physical. So this is the physical closure. Yes, I should say that. So even for the reduced model, you have a closure relation for the same closure for the same variable for the real energy. Say. Okay. This is important.